The emergency session bells rang through the crystalline corridors of the Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Zeth Carey of the Vorthak Empire clutched his ceremonial staff with trembling claws as he rushed toward the great assembly hall. In his 3 centuries of diplomatic service, he had never heard those particular bells, the ones reserved for species-threatening crises. The massive doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing chaos. Representatives from 47 different species filled the amphitheater-style chamber, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony that would have driven most beings insane. The crystalline resonators chimed in harmonics of distress, while the methane breathers released clouds of agitated pheromones that turned their atmospheric suits a vivid orange. At the center of it all, Chancellor Vextharian's massive form dominated the speaking platform. The ancient being's skin shifted through colors of deep concern, purples and blacks swirling across his elephant-like hide. His 4 arms gestured frantically as he attempted to restore order. Honored representatives, his voice boomed through the universal translators. We face an unprecedented situation. For the first time in the Council's 12,000-year history, a species has formally rejected our invitation to join galactic civilization. A collective gasp rippled through the assembly. The insectoid Queen Mother's antennae twitched violently, while the floating ethereal collective's energy forms flickered with agitation. In the upper galleries, the silicon-based rock speakers ground against each other in what their species considered nervous conversation. Ambassador Zeth Carey found his assigned seat among the Vorthak delegation and activated his personal translation matrix. The holographic display before him showed the formal response that had arrived from the Sol system just 6 standard hours ago. The human words, translated into 17 different languages, still carried the same shocking message across all versions. Chancellor Vextharian raised all 4 arms for silence. The species in question, he continued, are called humans. They inhabit the 3rd planet of a yellow star system designated Sol, located in what they call the Orion arm of their galaxy. Our initial contact protocols were followed precisely. First, Observer Kelthani of the Archaeological Guild made contact with their leaders using the standard peaceful introduction framework. The Chancellor's skin shifted to a sickly yellow as he accessed his memory crystals. The humans were unusual from the beginning. When Observer Kelthani appeared in their sky in his survey vessel, following the traditional approach of appearing to their most influential population centers, their response was immediate and violent. Instead of the expected awe, reverence, or surrender we typically observe, they began launching explosive projectiles at the ship. A nervous twitter ran through the avian collective section, their feathered representatives ruffled in distress, while the aquatic tide speakers created small whirlpools in their environmental tanks. Observer Kelthani, following protocol, disabled their primitive weapons systems using standard electromagnetic pulse fields and attempted to establish communication. The humans interpreted this as an act of aggression. The Chancellor's voice carried undertones of bewilderment that the universal translators struggled to convey. Rather than recognizing the technological superiority being demonstrated, they began what they termed guerrilla warfare. Ambassador Zeth Carey pulled up the detailed first contact reports on his personal display. The files made for disturbing reading. Humans had somehow adapted to the electromagnetic disruption within hours, creating hardened communication networks. They had scattered their leadership structures, making it impossible to negotiate with a central authority. Most concerning of all, they had begun reverse engineering the alien technology at a rate that defied all mathematical models for technological development. The situation deteriorated rapidly. Chancellor Vextharian continued. Standard containment protocols failed when the humans began launching coordinated attacks on our observation posts. They displayed an understanding of orbital mechanics that suggested a spacefaring capability far beyond what our initial surveys indicated. When Observer Kelthani attempted to establish a communication beacon on their moon, they somehow detected the stealth approach and the Chancellor paused, his skin cycling through several shades of embarrassment. They destroyed the beacon with what appears to be a kinetic weapon fired from their planet's surface. The assembly erupted in shocked chatter. The idea of a pre-contact species successfully engaging Galactic Council technology was absurd. Such things simply didn't happen. The mathematical impossibility of it caused the logical collective's representative to emit a series of error tones that required their backup processing unit to take over. Order! Chancellor Vextharian's voice thundered through the chamber. There's more. Following the destruction of the communication beacon, Observer Kelthani implemented Emergency Protocol 7 and withdrew to a safe distance to reassess. It was at this point that the humans somehow detected his ship's location despite full stealth engagement and transmitted their own signal. A holographic display materialized above the assembly, showing the primitive electromagnetic transmission that had so thoroughly disrupted galactic diplomatic norms. The message appeared in the humans' dominant language, with translations scrolling below in dozens of galactic tongues. Attention, alien vessel. This is Admiral Sarachun of the United Earth Defense Force. You have committed acts of war against the sovereign territory of Earth and the human species. We reject any claims of authority over our world or our people. We demand your immediate withdrawal from our solar system. Any further aggressive action will be met with proportional force. You have 30 minutes to comply. The silence that followed was deafening. Representatives stared at the display in various states of shock, confusion, and disbelief. The telepathic collective's members had gone completely silent, their normally constant mental chatter replaced by what could only be described as stunned amazement. Ambassador Zeth Carey felt his own species' equivalent of cold sweat beginning to form. The implications were staggering. Not only had the humans successfully resisted first contact, they had somehow turned it into a military engagement and emerged victorious. The psychological profiles suggested they were not only unimpressed by superior technology, but actively defiant of it. Observer Kelthani, the Chancellor continued, his voice now carrying overtones of defeat, concluded that the standard first contact procedures had failed catastrophically. He implemented the diplomatic override protocol and requested a formal ambassador be sent to negotiate proper introduction to the Galactic Council. The display shifted to show another message, this one bearing the official seals of the Galactic Council's diplomatic corps. Ambassador Velteron the Wise, a being whose negotiation skills had successfully brought 17 different species into the galactic community, had personally crafted the message. It offered technology, knowledge, protection from cosmic threats, and access to galactic trade networks. The standard package that had never failed to entice a developing species into joining the larger community. Their response, Chancellor Vextharian said, arrived this morning. A new holographic display appeared, and Ambassador Zeth Carey read the words that had prompted this emergency session. The human response was brief, direct, and absolutely unprecedented in the history of galactic diplomacy. To the Galactic Council, humanity acknowledges receipt of your diplomatic overture. After careful consideration by the elected representatives of Earth's nations, we formally decline your invitation to join your galactic community. We have no interest in subordinating ourselves to any external authority, regardless of technological superiority. We will develop on our own terms, at our own pace. We ask only that you respect our sovereignty and maintain a respectful distance from our solar system. Any attempts to force compliance or establish unauthorized presence in our territory will be considered acts of war. Signed, President Maria Santos, Secretary General of the United Nations, speaking for the unified government of Earth. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives began shouting, chittering, harmonizing, and communicating their shock in dozens of different ways. The hive mind species section buzzed with frantic internal discussion, while the energy beings flickered so rapidly their containment fields began showing strain warnings. Ambassador Zeth Carey stared at the message, reading it again and again. The The humans had not only refused the greatest offer in galactic history, they had essentially told the Galactic Council to leave them alone. The audacity was breathtaking. The implications were terrifying. Through the chaos, he heard fragments of panicked conversations from other delegations. The Trade Federation representatives were calculating the economic implications of a species developing independently. The military alliance was discussing threat assessments for a potentially hostile, spacefaring civilization. The scientific collective was debating whether the humans represented a new form of intelligence that couldn't be categorized by existing models. Chancellor Vextharian's massive form began glowing with bioluminescent patterns, his species' equivalent of calling for absolute attention. The chamber gradually quieted as representatives recognized the ancient signal for emergency deliberation. "Fellow counselors," he began, his voice carrying harmonics of deep concern, "we face a unique situation in galactic history. Never before has a species not only refused our invitation, but actively opposed our very presence in their space. Our xenopsychologists are baffled. Our military advisors are concerned. Our trade negotiators have no framework for dealing with a species that appears to want nothing we can offer." Ambassador Zeth Carey activated his speaking privileges. "Honored Chancellor, surely this is simply a matter of inadequate first contact procedures. Perhaps if we approach them differently, demonstrate our benevolent intentions more clearly." "Ambassador," the Chancellor interrupted, "you haven't reviewed the complete files. Our attempts at peaceful demonstration were interpreted as threats. Our offers of technology were seen as attempts at bribery. Our standard diplomatic protocols were viewed as evidence of imperial ambitions. The humans appear to operate under the assumption that any superior civilization must, by definition, represent a threat to their independence." The logical collective's backup representative finally managed to process the data enough to speak. "This creates a mathematical impossibility in our integration models. Every species we have encountered has recognized the benefits of galactic citizenship. The humans appear to value their independence more than technological advancement, more than protection from cosmic threats, more than access to galactic knowledge. The probability calculations return error messages." "Precisely the problem," Chancellor Vextharian agreed. "We are dealing with a psychology that doesn't fit our established models. Reports from the observation team suggest that humans actually become more resistant to external influence when faced with superior force or technology. They seem to interpret benevolent offers as attempts at subjugation." The crystalline resonators chimed in harmony, their sound translated as, "Perhaps they require more time to understand the benefits of galactic citizenship. Many species need adjustment periods." "The temporal analysis suggests otherwise," the Chancellor replied. "In the 6 months since first contact, humans have made technological advances that should have taken them decades. They've somehow reverse-engineered elements of our stealth technology, improved their defensive capabilities, and established monitoring stations throughout their solar system. They're developing faster than our models predict, and they're doing it specifically in response to our presence." Ambassador Zeth Carey felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's environmental controls. "You're suggesting they see us as a threat to be defended against rather than benefactors to be welcomed." "I'm suggesting something far more concerning," the Chancellor said grimly. "The humans appear to thrive on conflict and challenge. Our presence hasn't intimidated them or inspired them to seek our protection. It has motivated them to become stronger, more unified, and more technologically advanced. In trying to bring them into galactic civilization, we may have accidentally created our first true rival." The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Council had operated under a simple principle: superior technology and benevolent guidance would naturally attract developing species. The alternative, a species that rejected galactic authority and developed independently, was theoretically possible but had never been encountered. "What are you recommending?" Ambassador Zeth Carey asked, though he dreaded the answer. Emergency Session Alpha, the Chancellor announced. Full Council vote on how to proceed. The humans have forced us into uncharted territory. We must decide whether humanity represents an anomaly to be studied, a threat to be contained, or something entirely unprecedented that requires us to fundamentally reconsider our approach to galactic civilization. The chamber buzzed with urgent discussions as representatives contacted their home governments for guidance. Ambassador Zeth Carey stared at the human message still displaying in the air above them. 37 words that had shaken the foundations of galactic diplomacy. As he prepared his report for the Vordak High Command, one thought dominated his mind. For the first time in Council history, they were dealing with a species that genuinely didn't want what they were offering. The question now was whether the galaxy was prepared for the implications of humanity's independence, and whether humanity was prepared for the consequences of their defiance. The emergency session bells continued to ring throughout Nexus Prime, their urgent tones carrying a message that would soon echo across 47 different worlds. The age of unchallenged galactic authority was over, and humanity had ended it with a simple word: no. 3 standard hours after the emergency session began, Ambassador Zeth Carey received a priority transmission from his home world. The Vordak High Command had reviewed the situation and issued new orders. Like dozens of other Council species, they were beginning to see humanity not as a diplomatic challenge, but as a potential threat that needed immediate assessment. The humans, blissfully unaware that their rejection had triggered the largest military and diplomatic analysis in galactic history, continued their rapid technological development. On Earth, President Santos concluded her daily briefing with the same words that had become her signature since first contact. We stand alone, we stand free, and we stand ready. Neither species yet understood that they had stumbled into a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. The only certainty was that the old rules no longer applied, and the future belonged to whoever could adapt fastest to a new reality where humanity's fierce independence had changed everything. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the quantum-encrypted scanner and stepped into the most classified facility on Earth. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Extraterrestrial Technology Analysis Center hummed with activity that would have been impossible just 6 months ago. Banks of computers worked around the clock, processing data that challenged every assumption humanity had made about physics, engineering, and their place in the universe. Status report, Elena called out as she walked through the main laboratory. Her team of Earth's brightest scientists looked up from their workstations, their faces showing the exhaustion that came from working 18-hour days for weeks on end. Dr. James Park, the facility's chief engineer, approached with a tablet full of updates. We've had 3 major breakthroughs overnight. The electromagnetic pulse technology they use on our satellites. We not only figured out how it works, we've improved it. Our version has 40% better range and requires 60% less power. Elena nodded, trying to hide her amazement. When the alien ship had disabled Earth's satellite network during first contact, it had seemed like proof of their technological inferiority. Now, that same technology was being manufactured in laboratories across the globe. What about their stealth systems? That's breakthrough number 2, James said, leading her to a workstation where Dr. Sarah Kim was bent over a complex holographic display. The photonic metamaterial they recovered from the destroyed communication beacon on the moon had revealed secrets that human scientists had been theorizing about for decades. Elena, look at this, Sarah said without looking up from her work. Their stealth technology isn't just advanced, it's elegant. They bend electromagnetic radiation around their ships using programmable matter that responds to quantum field fluctuations. But here's the interesting part. They designed it to hide from sensors like theirs, not like ours. Meaning our radar systems work on completely different principles than what they expected. We were detecting them partially even when their stealth was active. They were essentially invisible to their own technology, but only partially hidden from ours. It's like they designed a perfect disguise for one type of vision, but didn't account for someone seeing in infrared. Elena felt the familiar thrill of discovery mixed with growing unease. Each breakthrough brought humanity closer to technological parity with their uninvited visitors, but it also revealed how vast the gap truly was. And the third breakthrough. James led her to a secure chamber where Dr. Robertson was working with what looked like a fragment of twisted metal. We finally figured out their material science. This piece of their beacon isn't just strong, it's programmable. Watch this. Robert touched a control panel, and the metal fragment began to reshape itself, flowing like liquid before solidifying into a completely different configuration. It's smart matter. Billions of nanoscale machines working together, capable of becoming any tool or structure needed. But the real breakthrough isn't what it can do, it's how it does it. Go on, Elena said, leaning closer to examine the material. They use quantum entanglement networks to coordinate the nanomachines. Every particle in this sample is quantum linked to every other particle. It's like having a material that thinks as a unified whole. But Elena, Robert's voice dropped to a whisper. I think we can do it better. Elena raised an eyebrow. Better? How? Their quantum networks are stable, but rigid. They're designed for consistency and reliability. But human quantum computers work differently. We've been developing chaos-based quantum systems that are more adaptive, more creative. If we can integrate our approach with their materials, we could have smart matter that not only thinks but learns, Elena finished. The implications were staggering. Within months of first contact, humanity wasn't just catching up to alien technology. They were finding ways to surpass it. Her secure communicator chimed with an urgent message from the surface. Dr. Vasquez, please report to Communication Center Alpha immediately. Priority 1 message from space. Elena made her way through the facility's maze of corridors to the communication center, where banks of monitors displayed data streams from humanity's rapidly expanding space surveillance network. Commander Lisa Torres, the facility's military liaison, was standing before the main display with an expression of grim satisfaction. Elena, we've been monitoring increased activity in the outer solar system. Our deep space sensors have detected at least 12 alien vessels maintaining position beyond Pluto's orbit. They're not hiding anymore. The main screen showed a tactical display of the solar system with red dots marking alien ship positions. Elena counted quickly. The visitors had tripled their presence since the diplomatic exchange 2 weeks ago. Are they planning an invasion? Elena asked. Unknown. But we're picking up massive amounts of encrypted communication traffic between the ships and something outside our solar system. Whatever they're discussing, it's big enough to require a lot of coordination. Commander Torres pulled up another display. But that's not why I called you here. Show her, Lieutenant Morrison. A young officer at a communication station turned toward them. Dr. Vasquez, we've been monitoring their communications using the new decryption algorithms your team developed. We can't understand their language yet, but we can identify communication patterns, frequency usage, and transmission protocols. And they're not just talking to each other or to whatever's outside our system. They're talking to someone on Earth. Elena felt her blood run cold. What do you mean on Earth? Lieutenant Morrison highlighted a series of data streams on his screen. Encrypted transmissions from the alien fleet to coordinates somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. The signals are going underwater, approximately 3 kilometers down. Someone or something down there is responding using technology that matches the alien communication protocols. Commander Torres stepped forward. Elena, we think they have assets on our planet. They may have had them here long before first contact. The revelation hit Elena like a physical blow. All of humanity's analysis had been based on the assumption that the aliens were external observers who had only recently discovered Earth. If they had been operating on the planet covertly for an unknown period of time, every assumption about their intentions and capabilities needed to be reconsidered. Have we located the exact coordinates? Elena asked. We have, and we've deployed a nuclear submarine to investigate. The USS Columbia is approaching the coordinates now. But, Elena, there's something else you need to know. Commander Torres activated another display. Our analysis of their communication patterns suggests they're not just monitoring us. They're reporting to multiple locations throughout the galaxy. The display showed estimated transmission paths extending far beyond the solar system, connecting to what appeared to be dozens of different star systems. Elena realized with growing alarm that Earth wasn't dealing with a single alien species or even a small exploration fleet. They were apparently under observation by a vast galactic intelligence network. "How long have they been watching us?" she asked quietly. Based on the communication protocols and the sophistication of their underwater installation, our best estimate is at least 50 years. Maybe longer. Elena sank into a nearby chair as the implications washed over her. 50 years of secret observation. 50 years of data collection about human society, technology, military capabilities, and psychology. The aliens' confidence during first contact suddenly made sense. They knew exactly what humanity was capable of because they had been studying them for decades. "There's more," Lieutenant Morrison said hesitantly. "The underwater installation isn't just communicating with the fleet. It's been transmitting data about our recent technological developments. Our reverse engineering projects, our new defensive systems, our improved satellite network. They know about all of it. They're spying on our counterintelligence efforts," Elena realized. "Every advancement we've made, every weakness we've addressed, they've been reporting it back to their superiors." Commander Torres nodded grimly. "It gets worse. Based on transmission timing and frequency, we believe they've been transmitting updates about our technological progress in real time. The aliens aren't just aware of our current capabilities, they're tracking our development rate and reporting it to what appears to be a much larger organization." Elena stood up abruptly and began pacing. "This changes everything. We've been assuming we surprise them with our resistance and rapid development. But if they've been monitoring us for 50 years, they knew exactly how we would respond to first contact. They knew we would reject their diplomatic overtures. They knew we would reverse engineer their technology. They've been testing us." "Testing us for what?" Commander Torres asked. Before Elena could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red warning lights bathed the communications center as Lieutenant Morrison's station erupted with incoming data streams. "Commander, we're receiving massive amounts of encrypted traffic from the alien fleet. All ships are changing position, moving toward Earth." Morrison's voice was tight with controlled panic. And something else, the underwater installation just went dark. Complete communication silence. The main tactical display updated in real time, showing the red dots representing alien ships beginning to move inward from their positions beyond Pluto. Elena watched with growing dread as the vessels arranged themselves in what was clearly a coordinated formation. "Time to Earth intercept," Commander Torres demanded. "At their current speed, approximately 72 hours, Morrison replied. "But, Commander, they're not just heading for Earth. They're surrounding us. This isn't an approach, it's an encirclement." Elena stared at the display as understanding dawned. They never intended to invite us to join their galactic community. The diplomatic contact, the offers of technology and protection, even our rejection of their overtures, it was all part of a larger plan. They've been studying us for decades, testing our responses, evaluating our capabilities. But for what purpose? Commander Torres asked. Elena's mind raced through the possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. A species that had been covertly monitoring Earth for 50 years, that had deliberately provoked humanity into rapid technological development, that was now surrounding the planet with a military force. There was only one logical conclusion. "They're not here to invite us to join galactic civilization," she said quietly. "They're here to determine whether humanity represents a threat to galactic civilization. And I think we just failed their test." The communication center fell silent, except for the steady stream of data from the approaching alien fleet. Elena realized that humanity's fierce independence and rapid technological development, the very traits they had been so proud of, might have marked them as a species too dangerous to be allowed to develop freely. As if in response to her thoughts, Lieutenant Morrison looked up from his station with an expression of barely controlled terror. Dr. Vasquez, Commander Torres, I'm picking up new transmissions from the alien fleet. I can't understand the content, but the communication protocols match something in our database. What kind of protocols? Elena asked, though she dreaded the answer. Military strike coordination. Elena closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Humanity's refusal to submit to galactic authority hadn't just surprised their visitors. It had triggered what appeared to be a predetermined response protocol. The independence that humans cherished so much was about to be tested in ways they had never imagined. "Give me President Santos on a secure line," she ordered, "and send a priority alert to all defense installations worldwide. Operation Independence is now in effect." As Lieutenant Morrison began implementing the emergency protocols, Elena stared at the tactical display, showing alien ships closing in on Earth. Somewhere in the vast galaxy beyond, other species had apparently decided that humanity's independence was incompatible with galactic security. The test was far from over. In fact, Elena realized with cold certainty it was just beginning. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, automated systems in the now-silent alien installation began implementing their final protocols. Data cores purged themselves, communication equipment dissolved into component atoms, and fail-safe mechanisms prepared to eliminate any evidence of the long surveillance operation. But the installation's builders had made one critical error in their understanding of human nature. They had assumed that 50 years of observation had taught them everything they needed to know about humanity's capabilities and psychology. They were about to learn that humans were most dangerous when they discovered they were being watched, and most innovative when they were backed into a corner with no choice but to fight their way out. Captain Sarah Zhang held her breath as the USS Columbia descended through the crushing darkness of the Pacific Ocean. At 3 kilometers below the surface, her nuclear submarine operated at the edge of its design limits. But the mission parameters were clear: investigate the alien installation and gather intelligence at any cost. Sonar contact bearing 270, distance 800 meters, reported sonar operator First Class Martinez. "It's big, Captain. Unlike anything in our databases." Sarah moved to the sonar station and studied the readings. The object was massive, nearly the size of a city block, and it was clearly artificial. Geometric patterns that had no business existing on the ocean floor stretched across the sonar display like a technological cancer growing in Earth's deepest places. "All stop," she ordered. "Maintain position at 800 meters. Deploy the ROV." The Columbia's advanced remotely operated vehicle launched silently into the dark water, its cameras and sensors automatically adjusting to the alien environment ahead. As the ROV approached the installation, the main viewer filled with images that made Sarah's crew collectively hold their breath. The structure was beautiful and terrible at once. Crystalline towers spiraled upward from a base that seemed to pulse with inner light. Organic curves blended seamlessly with geometric precision, creating an architecture that human minds struggled to process. It was clearly technology, but technology guided by aesthetic principles that felt fundamentally alien. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Williams said from the communication station, "I'm reading massive electromagnetic signatures from the structure. It's powered by something that makes our nuclear reactor look like a campfire." "Any signs of activity?" Sarah asked. "Negative. But, Captain, there are what appear to be docking facilities. Berths designed for underwater craft about the size of our submarine. And they look like they've been used recently." The implications sent a chill through the bridge crew. Not only had aliens been operating secretly on Earth for decades, they had been using submarines or similar craft to move freely through Earth's oceans. Every naval operation, every underwater installation, every submarine patrol, the aliens had potentially been monitoring it all from their secret base. "Deploy additional ROVs," Sarah commanded. "I want complete visual documentation of this facility. And give me a secure line to EDAC. Dr. Vasquez needs to see this." While her crew worked to document the alien installation, Sarah reviewed the mission briefings that had brought them to this moment. The discovery of the underwater base had rewritten humanity's understanding of their situation. First contact hadn't been first contact at all. It had been the end of a surveillance operation that had lasted longer than most humans had been alive. ROV-3 is picking up something unusual, reported the ROV operator. Captain, you need to see this. The main viewer switched to ROV-3's camera feed, showing what appeared to be a debris field surrounding one section of the alien structure. As the camera adjusted its focus, details became clear that made Sarah's blood run cold. "Those are human artifacts," she said quietly. "Submarine wreckage." The debris field contained unmistakable remnants of human technology, twisted metal with serial numbers, fragments of hull plating, even what appeared to be pieces of torpedo guidance systems. The wreckage was old, corroded by decades of exposure to seawater, but clearly identifiable as coming from multiple human submarines. Lieutenant Commander Williams ran the images through the computer's identification systems. "Captain, I'm showing matches for at least 3 different submarine classes. Soviet aeroboats, an early Los Angeles class, and something that looks like it might be from a research submarine. How long has this debris been here?" Sarah asked. "Based on the corrosion patterns, I'd estimate 20 to 30 years for the newest pieces. Some of the Soviet wreckage could be from the 1970s or earlier." Sarah realized with growing horror that the alien installation hadn't just been observing humanity passively. They had been actively eliminating human vessels that came too close to discovering their presence. Submarines that had been reported lost with all hands, attributed to mechanical failures or navigation errors, had actually been destroyed by alien defenders protecting their secret base. "ROV-2 is detecting something else," the operator reported. "There's a section of the installation that appears to be growing." The camera feed from ROV-2 showed a portion of the alien structure that was clearly expanding. Crystalline formations were extending outward from the main complex, while new towers spiraled upward from freshly formed foundations. The installation wasn't just active, it was enlarging itself. "How fast is the expansion?" Sarah asked. "Based on our sensor readings, the new construction has added approximately 10% to the installation's volume in just the past 6 hours. At this rate, the facility will double in size within the next 3 days." Sarah's tactical mind immediately grasped the implications. The aliens weren't just monitoring human responses to their presence in the outer solar system. They were preparing for something that required a much larger Earth-based facility. The timing couldn't be coincidental. "Give me EDAC on the secure channel," she ordered. "Priority 1. Minutes later, Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice crackled through the Columbia's communication systems from her facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. "Captain Zhang, what's your status?" "Doctor, we found the installation, and it's worse than we thought. The aliens haven't just been observing us. They've been actively defending their position by destroying human vessels that came too close. We've identified wreckage from at least 3 submarines spanning several decades." The silence on the communication channel stretched for long seconds before Elena responded. "Captain, that means they've been making tactical decisions about human casualties for decades. They're not just observers. They're active participants who have been willing to kill to maintain their secrecy." "It gets worse, Doctor. The installation is actively expanding. New construction that appears to be automated. Based on the expansion rate, they're preparing for something that requires significantly more capacity than their current operations." "Captain, we need to—" Elena's transmission cut off abruptly. "EDAC, please respond," Sarah called into the silence. After several minutes, Elena's voice returned, but it carried undertones of barely controlled panic. "Captain, we just detected massive energy signatures from all 12 alien ships in the outer solar system. They're powering up weapons systems and beginning final approach toward Earth. You need to document everything you can about that installation and get out of there immediately." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "Understood, Doctor. But there's something else you need to know. ROV-1 just detected movement inside the installation. Whatever's down here, it's not abandoned. The main viewer switched to ROV-1's feed, showing glimpses of activity through the crystalline windows of the alien structure. Shadowy forms moved through chambers filled with incomprehensible technology, while lights pulsed in patterns that suggested urgent activity. They know we're here, Sarah realized. The installation is preparing for something, and our arrival may have triggered it. As if responding to her words, the alien structure suddenly blazed with light. Energy patterns cascaded across its surface like liquid electricity, and new sections began emerging from the ocean floor with impossible speed. The installation was transforming from a covert monitoring post into something far more substantial. "Captain," Martinez called from the sonar station, "I'm detecting movement. Multiple contacts rising from the installation. They're heading directly for us." Sarah didn't hesitate. All ROVs returned to ship immediately. Emergency surface protocol. Ahead flank speed. The Columbia's reactor surged to full power as the submarine began its emergency ascent. Through the water around them, alien craft emerged from the installation like bioluminescent predators rising from an oceanic abyss. The vehicles moved with impossible grace, their forms shifting and adapting to the water environment in real time. "Sonar contact bearing 345, Martinez reported, his voice tight with tension. "Range 500 meters and closing." "Captain, they're faster than us." Sarah watched the tactical display as alien vessels closed in on her submarine. The Columbia was one of the most advanced underwater craft in human history, but these alien pursuers moved through the water like it was their natural element. Their technology didn't just allow underwater operation, it was designed for it. "Deploy countermeasures," she ordered. All available acoustic and electronic warfare systems. The Columbia released clouds of metallic chaff and began transmitting electronic noise designed to confuse enemy sensors. For a moment, the pursuing alien craft seemed to hesitate, their smooth approach disrupted by the human countermeasures. "It's working," Lieutenant Commander Williams reported. "They're falling back." But Sarah's relief was short-lived. The alien vessels quickly adapted to the countermeasures, their forms shifting to compensate for the human interference. Within minutes, they had resumed their pursuit, now seemingly immune to the Columbia's defensive systems. "They're learning from our tactics in real time," Sarah realized. "Every countermeasure we deploy, they adapt to within minutes." "Captain," Martinez called urgently. "New contacts surfacing directly above us." "It's huge." The sonar display showed a massive object rising from the depths below them. It was larger than any submarine ever built, its form defying classification. As it approached the surface, the Columbia was trapped between the alien craft pursuing from below and the massive vessel blocking their escape route above. "All stop," Sarah ordered, recognizing the tactical impossibility of their situation. "Stand by for contact." The alien vessels surrounded the Columbia, but maintained a respectful distance. Sarah realized they weren't attacking, they were containing. The underwater encounter had shifted from pursuit to something resembling a very polite but very firm detention. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Williams said quietly, "I'm receiving a transmission. It's using our own communication protocols." Sarah activated the main communication system. "This is Captain Sarah Zhang of the United States Navy submarine Columbia. Identify yourselves." The voice that responded was unmistakably artificial, but spoke in flawless English. "Captain Zhang, this is Deep Station Monitor Kelfsari. You are in violation of restricted waters. Your vessel and crew will not be harmed if you comply with our instructions." "These are international waters," Sarah replied firmly. "We have every right to be here." "Captain Zhang, you are investigating a facility that has existed on your ocean floor for 73 years. During this time, 17 human vessels have approached this location. 16 were redirected through technological means. One vessel, which carried weapons and hostile intent, was neutralized. Your submarine is the first to successfully document our presence." Sarah felt a chill as she realized the alien was confirming their worst fears. You've been destroying human submarines. One submarine was destroyed when it attempted to attack this installation with nuclear weapons in 1987. All other vessels were safely redirected through electromagnetic interference with their navigation systems. We have no desire for human casualties, but this facility must remain secure. Secure from what? Sarah demanded. Captain Zhang, your species has entered what your leaders call the final test phase. This installation serves as both monitoring station and— the alien voice paused, as if searching for the correct term— safe harbor. Events now beginning will determine whether humanity is compatible with galactic civilization or represents an extinction-level threat to be contained. The implications of the aliens' words hit Sarah like a physical blow. The underwater installation wasn't just a monitoring post, it was a backup plan. If humanity failed whatever test the aliens were conducting, this facility would serve as a base for enforcing galactic judgment. What kind of tests? Sarah asked. Your species has rejected integration into the galactic community and has demonstrated rapid technological advancement in response to our presence. You are now surrounded by our evaluation fleet. How humanity responds to this challenge will determine your future relationship with galactic civilization. Through the Columbia's communication systems, Sarah could hear the background chatter of her crew processing the aliens' words. The test wasn't just about technology or military capability, it was about how humans behaved when faced with overwhelming odds and impossible choices. Captain Zhang, the alien voice continued, you and your crew have been selected to serve as direct observers of the evaluation process. Your submarine will be escorted to the surface where you will witness humanity's response to our final assessment. Sarah realized that the Columbia's mission to investigate the underwater installation had been anticipated, possibly even orchestrated. The aliens hadn't just been monitoring human technology and society, they had been engineering situations to study human responses under extreme pressure. Surface according to our guidance, Captain. Your species' future will be determined in the next 48 hours, and your observations will form part of the permanent record. As the Columbia began its controlled ascent under alien escort, Sarah understood that humanity was about to face a test that would determine not just their independence, but their survival. The aliens hadn't come to conquer Earth. They had come to judge whether humanity deserved to continue existing as a free species. The evaluation was about to begin, and Sarah had a front-row seat to witness whether human defiance would save their species or doom them all. President Maria Santos stood in the Situation Room beneath the White House, surrounded by the assembled leadership of Earth's most powerful nations. The emergency session had been called when deep space sensors detected the alien fleet's final approach. But now everyone present understood they were witnessing something far more significant than a military threat. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria began, her voice carrying the weight of species-wide responsibility, we are facing what appears to be a formal evaluation by an advanced galactic civilization. Based on intelligence gathered by our teams, humanity is being tested to determine our compatibility with galactic society. The room buzzed with urgent translations as representatives from China, Russia, the European Union, India, Japan, and dozens of other nations processed the implications. General Harrison, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, stepped forward with a grim expression. Madam President, our analysis suggests we're facing a no-win scenario. The alien fleet consists of 12 vessels, each demonstrating technology centuries beyond our current capabilities. Our most optimistic military assessments give us less than a 5% chance of meaningful resistance. President Santos nodded grimly. General, what you're describing assumes this is a military engagement. Intelligence suggests it's something else entirely. Dr. Vasquez, please brief the Assembly on our current understanding. Dr. Elena Vasquez activated the main display, showing a real-time tactical view of the solar system. The alien ships had arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around Earth, maintaining equal distances and creating what appeared to be an observation grid rather than an attack formation. Based on communication intercepts and behavioral analysis, Elena began, we believe the aliens are conducting what they call a compatibility assessment. For 73 years, they've been monitoring human development, specifically looking for indicators of what they term expansion-safe civilization patterns. Chancellor Angela Richter of the European Federation leaned forward. Dr. Vasquez, what exactly are they testing for? Based on their own transmissions, they're evaluating whether humanity can be trusted with spacefaring technology. Specifically, whether we'll use advanced technology for exploration and cooperation or for conquest and destruction. Every species that gains access to galactic civilization undergoes this assessment. President Chun Li of the Chinese Republic raised his hand. And what happens to species that fail this test? Elena's pause was answer enough, but she provided the grim details. Historical precedent suggests that species deemed incompatible with galactic civilization are either quarantined to their home systems indefinitely, or, she hesitated, eliminated as a preventive measure. The room erupted in urgent discussions as world leaders grappled with the reality that humanity's future hung in the balance of an alien judgment they barely understood. President Santos called for order. The question before us, she continued, is how humanity responds to this evaluation. Our preliminary analysis suggests that every action we take is being monitored and assessed against galactic criteria we don't fully understand. What are our options? Asked Prime Minister James Wright of the United Kingdom. General Harrison stepped forward with a prepared briefing. Military analysis suggests three basic response categories. First, we could attempt to demonstrate peaceful intentions through gestures of surrender or submission. Second, we could try to negotiate from a position of technological equality by showcasing our rapid advancement. Third, we could prepare for armed resistance despite the overwhelming odds. General, President Santos interrupted, you're thinking about this in human terms. We're dealing with a species that has been studying human behavior for decades. They know exactly how we think and how we're likely to respond. The test isn't about what we choose, it's about why we choose it. Dr. Vasquez activated a new display showing communication patterns between the alien fleet and installations throughout the galaxy. We've detected transmissions to at least 47 different star systems. This evaluation is being observed by what appears to be the entire galactic community. Our response will set precedent for how advanced civilizations deal with emerging species. The implication sent a chill through the assembled leaders. Humanity wasn't just being judged for their own future. They were potentially determining the fate of every species that might achieve spaceflight in the centuries to come. President Santos turned to address the assembly directly. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we're approaching this wrong. We're trying to figure out how to pass their test, but that's exactly the kind of thinking that might cause us to fail. Explain, requested President Yuki Tanaka of the Pacific Alliance. Dr. Vasquez, show them the psychological profile of humanity that we believe the aliens have developed. Elena activated a comprehensive display showing decades of alien analysis of human behavior patterns. The data was staggering in its depth and accuracy, covering everything from individual psychological tendencies to species-wide cultural patterns. They know us better than we know ourselves, Elena explained. They've studied our response to authority, our reaction to superior technology, our behavior under pressure. But here's what's interesting. Every response pattern they've documented shows humanity consistently choosing independence over security, freedom over comfort. So they expect us to resist, concluded President Chun-Li. More than that, Maria replied. They're counting on it. Think about it. If they wanted to eliminate humanity, they could have done it at any point in the last 70 years. If they wanted us to submit, they would have approached us differently. This entire evaluation is designed to provoke us into demonstrating our core values under extreme pressure. Prime Minister Wright looked skeptical. Madam President, are you suggesting that resistance is what they want? I'm suggesting that authenticity is what they're testing for. Every species that joins galactic civilization brings something unique to the community. Our contribution appears to be our refusal to accept external authority without question. That's not a bug in human nature. It's a feature. The room fell silent as world leaders contemplated the implications. If Maria was correct, then humanity's path forward wasn't about choosing the right response. It was about remaining true to human nature regardless of consequences. General Harrison looked troubled. Madam President, if we're wrong about their intentions, authentic resistance could mean the end of human civilization. General, if we're right, then submitting to authority we haven't chosen could mean the end of human civilization anyway. Just a slower, more subtle end. Dr. Vasquez activated her communication systems. Madam President, I'm receiving a priority transmission from Captain Zhang on the Columbia. She's requesting permission to address the assembly directly. Put her through, Maria ordered. Captain Zhang's voice filled the situation room with reports from her encounter with the underwater alien installation. Her description of the expanding facility, the alien admission of monitoring human submarines for decades, and their frank discussion of humanity's evaluation sent new waves of concern through the assembled leaders. Captain Zhang, President Santos asked, in your assessment, what are the aliens expecting from us? Madam President, the alien I spoke with made it clear that this evaluation has been planned for decades. Every aspect of first contact, our technological development, even our rejection of their diplomatic overtures, it's all been orchestrated to study how humans behave when faced with impossible choices. And your recommendation? Madam President, I think they're testing whether we'll remain human under pressure or whether we'll try to become what we think they want us to be. The aliens specifically mentioned that my crew and I were selected to observe humanity's response. They want witnesses to whatever's about to happen. President Santos looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. In their expressions, she could see the same realization dawning that had come to her hours earlier. The evaluation wasn't really about military capability, technological advancement, or diplomatic skill. It was about whether humanity would remain authentically human when faced with cosmic-level consequences. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, I'm calling for a vote. The question before us is simple. Do we respond to this evaluation as humans, with all our flaws and stubborn independence intact, or do we try to become what we think an advanced galactic civilization wants us to be? The debate that followed was intense, but brief. World leaders who had spent decades disagreeing on everything from trade policies to territorial disputes found themselves united by a shared understanding of what was at stake. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. President Santos activated the global communication network, addressing not just the leaders in the situation room, but every human being on Earth. Citizens of Earth, this is President Santos. In approximately 6 hours, humanity will face a test that will determine our future relationship with galactic civilization. We have been offered a choice between security and independence, between safety and freedom. She paused, looking directly into the camera. After consultation with world leaders and careful analysis of our situation, humanity chooses freedom. We will face this evaluation as we have faced every challenge in our history, united in our diversity, stubborn in our independence, and absolutely refusing to surrender our right to determine our own destiny. The response from around the globe was immediate and overwhelming. From military bases to research facilities, from major cities to remote villages, humanity's answer echoed the same theme. They would rather face extinction as free beings than accept survival as subjects. Dr. Vasquez monitored the alien fleet's communications as President Santos spoke. Madam President, the alien ships are responding to your broadcast. Massive increase in communication traffic, and they're transmitting everything to those 47 star systems. Are they preparing to attack? General Harrison asked. No, sir. If anything, their formation is becoming more defensive. They're waiting for something. President Santos smiled grimly. Doctor, I think they're waiting for us to show them what humanity looks like when we stop worrying about passing their test and start focusing on being ourselves. As her words echoed around the globe, defense installations powered up, research facilities activated emergency protocols, and ordinary citizens prepared for whatever came next. Humanity had made its choice, and whatever the consequences, they would face them as a free species. The evaluation was about to enter its final phase, and for the first time since the aliens had arrived, humans were dictating the terms of their own test. The silence that followed President Santos's global address lasted exactly 47 minutes. Then, every communication system on Earth simultaneously received the same transmission. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched her screens fill with incoming data as alien signals bypassed every security protocol and encryption system humanity had developed. The message appeared in every human language simultaneously, suggesting a level of preparation that was both impressive and deeply unsettling. Citizens of Earth, the transmission began. This is Galactic Evaluation Coordinator Prime Aston, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council's Assessment Division. Your species has completed the formal evaluation process. The results are unprecedented. In the Situation Room, President Santos and the assembled world leaders watched as their screens filled with data streams from across the galaxy. The alien coordinator's words were accompanied by visual representations of what appeared to be the most comprehensive analysis of any species in galactic history. For 12,000 years, the coordinator continued, the Galactic Council has conducted compatibility assessments of emerging civilizations. The evaluation process has three possible outcomes. Integration, indicating a species ready for galactic citizenship. Quarantine, indicating a species requiring further development under control conditions. Or elimination, indicating a species too dangerous to be permitted technological advancement. President Santos felt the weight of 40 billion human lives in those words. Around the globe, every person with access to communication technology was receiving the same message, understanding that their species' future was being determined by beings they had never met, using criteria they barely understood. In the history of galactic evaluation, the coordinator continued, no species has ever demanded to know the evaluation criteria. No species has ever insisted on determining their own response parameters. No species has ever. The transmission paused, as if the alien was struggling with concepts foreign to galactic experience, rejected the evaluation process while simultaneously completing it perfectly. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her monitoring station. Madam President, the alien fleet is powering down their weapons systems. All 12 ships are transmitting stand-down protocols to each other. Humanity, the coordinator's transmission resumed, has demonstrated something that our civilization models did not predict was possible. You have maintained species authenticity under extreme pressure. You have chosen principles over survival. You have unified your world not through submission to external authority, but through shared commitment to self-determination. In the Pacific Ocean, Captain Zhang listened to the transmission from the Columbia's bridge while maintaining position under alien escort. The massive underwater installation had stopped its rapid expansion and was now pulsing with what appeared to be celebratory light patterns. Captain Zhang, the alien monitor she had spoken to earlier, contacted her directly. Your species has achieved something remarkable. You have passed an evaluation that was designed to be impossible. What do you mean, impossible? Sarah asked. The evaluation parameters were deliberately structured to force a choice between species survival and species integrity. Every previous evaluation has resulted in emerging civilizations choosing survival through compromise of their core values. Humanity chose integrity despite the apparent consequences. Sarah stared at the alien installation through her submarine's viewing ports. You designed a test that you expected us to fail? We designed a test that would reveal whether humanity could maintain its essential nature under cosmic-level pressure. Most species modify their behavior to meet evaluation expectations. Humans modified the evaluation to meet their own expectations. The implications of the aliens' words hit Sarah like a revelation. You weren't testing whether we were suitable for your galactic civilization. You were testing whether we were suitable to remain ourselves. Precisely, Captain Zhang. And your species has demonstrated that human independence is not a barrier to galactic citizenship. It is your qualification for it. Back in the Situation Room, Coordinator Prime Aston Wheeler's transmission was reaching its conclusion. The Galactic Council's Assessment Division hereby declares humanity to have achieved unprecedented evaluation results. Your species is classified as Autonomous Partner, a designation that has never before been required or awarded. President Santos looked around the room at faces reflecting the same confusion she felt. Dr. Vasquez, what does Autonomous Partner mean? Elena was frantically accessing the flood of data accompanying the alien transmission. Madam President, based on the information they're providing, it means humanity is being invited to join galactic civilization as equals rather than subjects. No versigt, no gradual integration, no cultural modification requerimentos. The Galactic Council, the coordinator continued, recognizes humanity as a species qualified for independent space expansion, technological development, and cultural self-determination. Human representatives will be offered full participation in galactic governance, with equal voice in decisions affecting galactic civilization's future. General Harrison looked skeptical. This seems too good to be true. What's the catch? His question was answered by the coordinator's next words. Humanity's new status comes with commensurate responsibility. As an autonomous partner species, humans will be expected to participate in the evaluation of future emerging civilizations. Your unique approach to independence and self-determination will serve as a new model for galactic development. Dr. Vasquez's screens filled with star charts showing hundreds of developing species throughout the galaxy. Madam President, they're asking us to help evaluate other species the way they evaluated us, but using human criteria for independence and self-determination instead of the traditional Galactic Council approach. President Santos realized the magnitude of what was being offered. They're not just giving us membership in their civilization. They're asking us to help shape the future of galactic civilization. Furthermore, the coordinator's transmission continued. Humanity's rejection of traditional diplomatic approaches has identified significant flaws in our standard first contact procedures. The Galactic Council requests human consultation in developing new protocols that respect species autonomy while maintaining galactic security. The transformation was breathtaking in its implications. In less than a year, humanity had gone from an unknown species to equal partners in galactic governance. Their stubborn refusal to submit to authority hadn't disqualified them from galactic civilization. It had revolutionized it. There is one final component to humanity's new status, the coordinator announced. The underwater monitoring installation in your Pacific Ocean will be converted to a full diplomatic and cultural exchange facility. Humans and galactic representatives will work together to develop new approaches to interspecies cooperation based on mutual respect rather than technological superiority. Captain Zhang received confirmation of the installation's new purpose from her alien contact. Captain, the facility you discovered will become humanity's first galactic embassy. Your submarine's crew has been selected as the initial human liaison team, if you're willing to accept the position. Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing the same mixture of amazement and determination in their faces that she felt herself. On behalf of my crew, we accept. President Santos addressed the global audience that was still listening to the unprecedented conversation between Earth and galactic civilization. Citizens of Earth, humanity has been offered something unprecedented in galactic history. True partnership based on mutual respect rather than technological hierarchy. The question now is whether we accept the responsibilities that come with this honor. The response from around the globe was swift and overwhelming. From research facilities to military installations, from major cities to remote villages, the answer was the same. Humanity would accept the challenge of helping to reshape galactic civilization according to principles of freedom, independence, and mutual respect. Dr. Vasquez monitored communications as human organizations worldwide began coordinating with alien counterparts. Madam President, I'm receiving collaboration requests from galactic research institutions, military academies, and cultural exchange programs. They want to learn from us as much as we want to learn from them. The evaluation process has concluded, Coordinator Prime Aston Wheeler announced. However, the relationship between humanity and galactic civilization has only begun. Welcome to the galaxy, not as subjects or students, but as partners and teachers. As the alien fleet began transforming from a threatening encirclement to a protective escort, President Santos reflected on the incredible journey that had brought humanity to this moment. Their refusal to submit had become their qualification for leadership. Their independence had become their contribution to galactic civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced to the world leaders still gathered in the Situation Room, we have work to do. 47 different species are watching to see what humanity does with the responsibility we've been given. Let's show the galaxy what human independence looks like when it's paired with human cooperation. The months that followed transformed both Earth and galactic civilization. Human diplomats worked alongside alien counterparts to develop new first contact protocols based on respect for species autonomy. Human scientists collaborated with galactic researchers to accelerate technological development for all species. Human military advisors helped establish new security frameworks that protected developing civilizations from exploitation. Most importantly, human philosophers and cultural leaders worked with their galactic counterparts to establish new principles of interspecies cooperation. The concept of earning galactic citizenship through authentic self-expression rather than cultural conformity spread throughout the galaxy, fundamentally changing how advanced civilizations interacted with emerging species. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Earth's chief science liaison to the Galactic Council, stood in the converted underwater facility that had become humanity's first extraterrestrial embassy. Through the crystalline walls, she could see human and alien scientists working together on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. Dr. Vasquez, her alien colleague Kelsari, addressed her. The Council has received requests from 15 different emerging species asking for human involvement in their evaluation processes. They specifically request assessment based on human criteria for independence and self-determination. Elena smiled, watching human children play with young aliens in the facility's cultural exchange area. The species that had once terrified galactic civilization with their stubborn independence had become the galaxy's most sought-after teachers of freedom and cooperation. Set up the meetings, she replied. Humanity has learned that our greatest strength isn't our technology or our military capability. It's our refusal to compromise our values for the sake of convenience. If that's what these species want to learn, we're ready to teach. In the depths of space, former Galactic Evaluation Coordinator Prime Aston Wheeler submitted his final report to the Council. The document would reshape galactic civilization for millennia to come, but its conclusion was surprisingly simple. Humanity has taught us that true strength comes not from the ability to impose one's will on others, but from the courage to remain true to one's principles regardless of consequences. Their greatest contribution to galactic civilization is not their technology or their knowledge. It is their demonstration that independence and cooperation are not mutually exclusive, but rather mutually reinforcing. The age of galactic hierarchy was over. The age of galactic partnership, guided by human principles of freedom and self-determination, had begun. And it all started with a simple word that had terrified the galaxy. No.